Those who believe that the last days begin in 1914 point to what they see as a composite sign that started in that year. In Matthew 24, verse 7, Jesus said, "For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom." Some understand this to be part of the non-sign, the warning not to be misled or alarmed whenever there are civil or international conflicts. However, those who believe that the last days begin in 1914 see it differently. The thought is that while there have always been wars through human history, from 1914 onward, they have increased in number and frequency. World War I, which began in 1914, is seen as a huge turning point in history. The world just before 1914 is seen as a time of peace and optimism, with World War I being entirely unexpected. One person who was born before 1914 said, "People had been saying that the world had become too civilized for war, but World War came out of nowhere, like a bolt from the blue." It is also said, World War I was the first war on a global scale. The First World War was by far the widest and the most destructive human conflict up until that time. World War I is seen as the First World War, the first total war, many times greater than what preceded it, in terms of casualties and the number of nations involved. It is also said, no generation previous to that of 1914 ever experienced a world war, never mind two. And without a question, the Second World War was likely one of the worst wars in human history in terms of scope and the loss of life. And many other wars have been fought in the 20th century, up until today, that have cost many lives. Because of this, those who believe the last days began in 1914 say, conditions in the past 100 years have been worse than ever, and they continue to deteriorate. A quote from the World Watch Institute is often cited that says, 3 times as many people fell victim to war in the 20th century as in all the wars from the 1st century AD to 1899. All of this seems very impressive. Like many, I took many of these quotes at face value and took this as insurmountable proof that since 1914, the world had entered into the time of the end. If you feel this way too, ask yourself, have I ever dug beneath the surface? Have I ever performed an objective search into this matter?